mentioned, it's this combination of being able to adopt a new tool, a new process, but also not disregard the importance of the human change management piece as well. Because at the end of the day, it's about how we get the work done, right? And for you to get the work done in a new process, in a new tool, you got to make sure that people are willing to do that in the new way, are willing to work in that new fashion, right? That
Yes.
we're proposing to operate.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to eCore's Fireside Chat. I'm Dan Texera, the North American Managing Director for eCore. And today, I'm thrilled to have Marcio, the CEO and one of the co-founders of eCore, a leading IT provider celebrating its 25 years of innovation and excellence. Marcio, I've known you for about 3 years through the ecosystem, been now at eCorean for about a year. Really happy to have you here. Love for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me here. Very happy to share a little bit about my professional history. Co-founder of eCore, started my career in sales, studied computer science, and later on studied business management. When we started eCore as a training company. And we evolved our relationship with the university, putting into practice one of our core values, which is lifelong learning. And as we evolved our company, we also get into the field of software engineering, helping large organizations develop very complex initiatives, transformative initiatives that were not called digital transformation initiatives back then. But so some of the very important projects that we developed initially in Brazil exposed us to different markets that allowed us to expand into the United States, North America as a whole, to the point that we're now reaching close to 800 employees spread across different countries, Brazil, Mexico, here in the United States as well.
Really impressive, both the growth over the periods of times and what we faced. One of my best times of having Marcio with me to support me through this evolution as we're building out North America is all the lessons learned that he's had over the 25 years. Let's talk about some of those. What were some of the challenges that you see that customers were facing back then, and how do you see those evolving into today?
Yes, I see, before setting perhaps the context here in terms of the challenges we saw our clients, the initial challenge we had as a company that was starting was to first establish the right culture. Because as a software and services company, we got to make sure that we have the right people with the right mindset working in favor of our clients' interests. So I would say forging the right culture was one of the key challenges we experienced. Accessing accounts, accessing clients was another challenge we had to solve. But I think the more we got into the business of our clients, we understood that if you put ourselves in the shoes of our clients, we would succeed. And there is one concept that I personally follow, which is this concept of the trust equation. What the trust equation means, and this is by two authors, David Masters and Charles Green, what they say is the following: trust is based on the combination of credibility, which is essentially knowing what you're talking about. In our case, knowing technology, knowing what the current trends are. Also having the ability to deliver. So making sure that your promises are actually delivered into practice. So being reliable. That's the second element of the formula. The third element is intimacy, getting into the context of the clients, understanding the business challenges. And if you put those three elements and combine those in a sum, you have to divide that by your self-orientation. So thinking more about the client's interests, not your personal interests. So if you put all those factors into account and you're able to build long-lasting, trustworthy relationships, I think in the long run, as a professional services firm, we'll be successful. So going back to a question, I think this combination of having the right culture, making sure that you're accessing the clients, but are able to land and expand that client base by putting yourself as someone who is the true trusted advisor to those customers. I think those are core elements that I've seen as challenges that we have gone through, and I think have learned a lot through this journey.
And I think it's a key differentiator for us in the services that we provide at eCore and the ones that I've done in my past. I mean, from what you just said there, what I'm thinking about is knowledge. Are we credible and knowledgeable in that space, whether it's an implementation, a change process? Can we actually execute? Can we provide that value to it? And then the last piece is that value. Are we creating that value aspect? And it's really important, the best relationships from a trusted advisor perspective that I have, both the company that I was a part of grew as eCore is growing, and the client grew. And that's that self-intimacy, I think, that you're speaking of, which is excellent. Reflecting kind of on the changes, the similar path evolved as eCore evolved, and the notion of partners to help us, not just clients, came evolve. Can you talk a little bit about the ecosystem of how partners have helped us evolve?
Yes, absolutely. I think over the years, we're able to first, as you mentioned, deliver value to the clients, and sometimes we're exposed to opportunities that you may lack internally a solution for, right? So client may present you with a challenge, and making sure that you're constantly looking for new trends, making sure that you have the right partners so that you can build a solution for that problem that the client is presenting to you is very important. And I think over the years, we're able to identify those key companies we wanted to be close to, and those ecosystems of companies, in the case specifically of AWS and Atlassian, two very important ecosystems that they were attached to, I think helped us in this trajectory of bringing more value to the customers. So as I mentioned, we started as a professional service firm, but having specialization is key. And by partnering with those large companies, I think we're able to enhance our value proposition to the clients, and as a consequence, be successful as well. I wouldn't also underestimate the importance of the people aspect, right? So looking internally, making sure that the culture that you wanted to set up is getting actually implemented. So I think since the beginning, you're able to focus on some core values and created rituals and practices that allowed us to be recognized one of the top employers in the markets we operate for many years, actually. So being a great place to work is a key characteristic of a service organization, and we're very proud for being able to implement some of the things we wanted since the beginning of the company, and we can translate those benefits into tangible solutions for our clients, including low turnover for our staff, making sure that we have highly skilled people in our team as well, that is up to date regarding the new technologies. So I think that combination of the workforce with the right partners is very important in a service organization like ourselves.
Critical. And I think we see a lot of organizations that have values, and the values are just slideware. They're, the kind of things that they just put out there. I'm incredibly impressed by how much our values are truly instilled in the people that work here, from every single one of the 800, and I think that's a critical element for eCore. One of those values is innovation, and is all around innovation, and we know the space in AI is where everyone is talking about innovation. So what are the key kind of business values that you see in the past, and we'll talk a little bit moving forward, but what are some of the stuff you've seen in the past of the adoption of AI for our clients?
Yes, I think one of the challenges I've seen with our clients is first making sure the clients have the proper infrastructure in place. And what I mean by infrastructure, I'm talking about understanding the processes and the data that is captured in each step of the processes or the business processes. So I think simply applying technology without those core elements or foundational elements into place, I think it's very hard. So I would recommend really looking very deeply on the data and the process part first. Another challenge we've seen is that it's also about identifying the key step of the business process that you can leverage the new technology. We've seen a few examples of companies that tried to do that that were not successful, maybe because they elected the wrong step of the business process to automate or to maybe delegate the decision maker to the algorithm. So Here in the US, for example, we've seen a large company that has an inventory of houses and that goes for rents and also for sale. And this company in particular tried to automate the process of providing a quote for them to purchase a property. And the algorithm that did that was being exposed to the clients very soon in the process, was not perfect. So dealing with those imperfections, I think it's also challenging, and making sure that you're selecting a part of the process that is not going to create a tangible risk to our company as well. And because I think part of the application of AI is that to make sure that you are comfortable dealing with imperfections, especially because we still have the issues of hallucination, which is very common in the application, especially for generative AI. But having said all that, I think it's very important to say that there are very specific and steps that you can leverage AI and make a significant improvement, right? So if you have the correct application of AI, I think your company is going to be rewarded significantly. So you see that a lot for example, in the customer service application for generative AI. You see that in the field also for pharma companies in the drug development space. But more importantly, I think with the right foundations in place, we've seen a wide adoption of machine learning in the context of other companies in the manufacturing space, for example, to anticipate and implement predictive analytics. Those are areas that I believe can bring significant value by applying AI, solving for a specific part of the business process in conjunction with human beings as well. So I think that's another part that you cannot forget, right? Making sure that you have the right balance between what is done by an algorithm, by a robot, versus what is done by someone that is being co-piloted by the algorithm.
Yeah, I think the other part that brings up is there's been, when I speak to CEOs, there's two examples that come to my mind right off the bat. One of them is at a large software technology firm, software technology company, and they show a roadmap and annual approval of 180 AI projects. 180 AI projects, all individual pieces coming in. The other is a CIO, a mentor of mine, looking and saying, my business owners, my leaders, my peers all have different AI incentives and AI goals and AI OKRs, and it's not looked at more holistically across the stream of individual pieces coming in, and rather than thinking about it holistically and looking at the ROI. We know that the ROI piece has been a critical kind of conversation, how long it takes necessarily to get to that space that we're looking at. I know that at eCore, we've seen some around a 40 to 50, we have cases around 40, 50% increased productivity within service activities, ticket resolution for our clients, aspects of research and debugging. We've also seen some really quality in our own teams that we're providing and embedding developer productivity tools and others that have seen some increases of up to 30% in their productivity. That's just kind of our internal and some of our studies. I know you wanted to share a couple of case studies, specifically 2 of them. I'll let you do that because I know you're excited about them.
Yes, absolutely. I think there are the non-core applications of AI, as some of them you mentioned, right? Making sure that you have the right tools that will allow you to be productive, as you mentioned. But you have also seen the companies leveraging AI for specific core applications. In the manufacturing industry, for example, we have been partnering with a client that is one of the largest paper producers in the world. And what they're doing is they are applying AI for predictive maintenance of the heavy-duty machines that they have in place to produce paper. So making sure that you can run forecasts, anticipating when the machine will stop based on the data we collect from sensors, making sure that you can also leverage the integration of that data from, let's say, a factory standpoint, making sure that you have info on the whole production line, and allow the engineers who are looking at the data to make the right decisions, right? So at the end of the day, reducing downtime, making sure that you are effective, leveraging the production to the extent possible. So that's an interesting example. Another example we've seen is more in the image recognition side, where we've seen applications of companies that are taking the large amount of data they have in the form of photos and converting that into automatic decision-making process. An example being this firm that provides quotes for car repairs. So imagine you have your car that was damaged in an accident. You can take a picture of your car, and the software or the solution we built will recognize the pieces that were damaged based on the photo, and then look at the catalog or the inventory of all of the parts that were damaged and create a quote automatically. So that process used to take months or weeks to be done with a large amount of auto repair show-ups. Now it can be done in seconds. So I think that's an interesting application of, let's say, this image recognition capability that is widely available in the different solutions of partners we have been working with, but not all companies can identify the application, or that goes back to the identifying the right step of your business process so that you can apply technology, right? And create a differentiation.
Yeah. It's a critical piece, and it's a great example of eCore's support of businesses seamlessly integrating cutting-edge technology into their business models and really making sure that they're capturing and solving problems and capturing more market share as a result of it. That experience of a car repair, I could just imagine the ease of now knowing the picture and connecting that. Sometimes that car repair is just for a client, is for a customer, an owner of that car, is so that they don't know that space, makes it a better seamless experience. So the other push is that's a main driver of where we're seeing our clients go. A couple of other spaces that we're seeing our clients go, and these are mainly driven, I think, around the economic pressure that's going on. The first, as I mentioned prior, is around productivity. And there's a lot of talk around developer productivity from an AI perspective that we spoke about, but there's also productivity of, there's a strong backlog of work that hasn't been done that needs to get pushed forward. How do we get that down to an understanding into the teams as quickly as possible? How do we work across the value chain of multiple teams together? And so we've been getting a lot of inquiries and a lot of some work that we're doing around the productivity across. And then this aspect of technical debt, because of a lot of the ad hoc AI projects, a lot of shadow IT that's going through, and how do we build a solution that really scales and that builds the end problem, not just individual problems as we've seen. Those are some of the trends that we're seeing in the moment today. You've been at this, I hate to keep telling you 25 years, it's not that long, but how have you seen the evolution of companies, specifically within the North American space? And I think one of the things we've done really well is leverage a global resource model towards it. Can you speak a little bit about how that's evolved 25 years?
Yes, absolutely. I think over the years we saw widely adoption of Agile, right? But at the same time, offshoring being an option, right? For especially when a company wants to leverage a cost-effective location due to the labor arbitrage. When you combine those two things, you start seeing some companies looking into nearshoring, not necessarily offshoring, right? Because of the time zone alignment, cultural alignment as well. And if you think that you can leverage the best of both worlds, right? So we can have productivity and also cost efficiency. Productivity by the way we work in a collaborative way, making sure that you're leveraging the principles of Agile. You have strong autonomy, but also alignment. You have strong communication process. That can be done if you have time zone alignment, if you have cultural alignment as well. So I think you've seen an expansion of nearshoring capabilities over the years, which is, I think, in a way very positive for us because we are very well established in two territories that covers the Americas. So in particular for the West Coast in Mexico and for the East Coast in Brazil. And I think at the end of the day, what you're doing those territories serving the North American market is also finding the best talent that are located across different regions, regardless if they are based in Brazil or based in Mexico, making sure that you have the right set of skills, making sure that they are, in the eyes of the clients, also not only qualified, but cost efficient, they're productive, and making sure that by partnering with the clients, we don't forget the personal touch and the importance of being present as well. So we've been investing also locally here in the US to make sure that we have some of the functions being done locally, exposed to the clients in a face-to-face manner. So those are some of the trends I've seen, combining agile and nearshoring capabilities, as you mentioned.
The connection there, I think, is brilliant, and the driving towards it. I remember trying to educate agile teams when there was a complete offshore aspect to it. And we tried to really kind of shoehorn it in and make it work, but it didn't work because we were hours apart and still punting work back and forth. I think one of the other drivers that we've seen lately of teams working in more agile, iterative fashions is the need for organizations to have more data. And have more data to make decisions. Where are we at with this roadmap project? How are we doing against this? We put it into production. Are people leveraging what we're using now? And it was two cases that we're working through at the moment. Two companies, both looked for a tooling solution to help them get this visibility. So a version of implementing some sort of Atlassian tooling version is what we did in both of these. One of them acknowledged right from the start that we have to align our processes along with that. And so the evolution of how teams will work, how teams will interact, during what team meetings that we had and collaboration moments, where would we leverage things in the tool. And we go look at their dashboards now as the way they implemented it, full transparency of data. And now this is a company that's 4 or 5 years old, growth in that. The other company, more of a legacy, over 100 years old, in a more of a manufacturing space. And the challenges of getting them to change the way they're working, but yet they're seemingly very frustrated in the tooling because they can't get the data. There's an empathy approach to that too. And so I think part of what we do is incrementally get them to that space. So we're starting to work with them around how do you break down your work smaller so that it's more visible and all of that. But I think a key back to almost the trust piece that you spoke about in the beginning and being that trusted advisor is having a lot of empathy and saying, not doing the same approach to a company that's innovative for 4 years and somebody who's a legacy, very successful company for years over a period of time. But the key there, companies are moving towards this to get more visibility, to make better decisions with their data spaces.
It's interesting, this example that we just mentioned, it's this combination of being able to adopt a new tool, a new process, but also not disregard the importance of the human change management piece as well. Because at the end of the day, it's about how we get the work done, right? And for you to get the work done in a new process, in a new tool, you gotta make sure that people are willing to do that in the new way, are willing to work in that new fashion, right? That
Yes.
we're proposing to operate.
Yes, yeah, and see the results that come from it.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of supporting our clients, we got to start wrapping up because we got to go support our clients even further. But before you go, I wanted to talk a little bit about the future. We have been investing a lot in North America as an eCore company. Where do you see the future of what our clients are going to desire, and how are we setting that up?
I think this idea of getting closer and closer to the accounts from a physical standpoint, making sure that you're close to where the accounts are, where the customers are. So expanding our footprints in cost-effective locations as well. It's something that I believe it's important for us to continuously deliver value to the clients. So accessing the right talent at the right place at the right time. So I think that's an area we're going to continue to invest. I think from a solution standpoint, we'll also be focusing on building solutions around specific domains or verticals. Basing our approach on the partners that we already have, or potentially expanding the number of partners we bring to the table, and always with the trust equation in mind, right? Being specialists, making sure that you can deliver reliably, that you can also have the intimacy portion of it captured, and always making sure that you're not self-orienting the actions or prioritizing things that are only good for us, but make sure that you are prioritizing what is good for the client. So I think instilling that culture, it's very important. It's a long mission that we have to keep executing on.
Good. Yeah, brilliant. And we are coming out, as Marcio said, with more industry specific. Look for that from the banking sector, from supply chain, agriculture, retail, and e-commerce. That's something that we're really focusing in on. I want to thank you on behalf of eCore, our clients, everything, for 25 years and providing the services and guiding the company to keep all of our clients and keep the thought process going with our partners and clients to keep those. So I really wanted to appreciate for that. Thank you for the time, and we will see you guys all on the next Fireside Chat. Please follow us on LinkedIn and look to our different websites to see what the future's to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Nat.